I think we can start with the session.
Yeah. Let's start by introducing us. Um, I am Rebel Pandey. I was in the Department of Electrical Engineering and I am currently doing quant research at Graviton.
I myself Swastik. I was in computer science department and I got an on-campus offer at Square Point Capital in quant role.
So, hi, I'm Devanshan. I'm from CSE department. I got software engineering offer from Databricks Berlin.
Hi, Michael Kipling. I'm currently working in the systems role at Graviton.
We can start with the presentation. So hi guys, welcome to the session. So today we'll discuss some tips that helped us and we'll share our experiences.
So let's start with quants
Let's
also. Next slide.
say what is quant like. So like in most of these quant firms, so they utilize some algorithms or some mathematical models to help them in trading live. So what they have to do is like they have to create these strategies and like deploy them in real life. So they utilize a lot of market data and they can apply machine learning on it. They can apply statistics. They can apply stochastic calculus, a lot of those things. And yeah, so there are various roles within these quant firms.
Yes. So basically, three types of roles are there that come within these quant firms. It includes quantitative research, which is basically about trying out some strategies, trying out signals to the market, when to trade, when not to trade, and how much to trade, and stuff like that. Then there is quantitative trading, which involves the actual trading and deployment. So most of the Indian quant companies which come have the same role for quant research as well as trading, while foreign quants usually have different roles for quantitative research and trading. And the other role is the systems role, which basically covers how to improve your latency and work on increasing the throughput of your setup.
A lot of companies visit on a campus. For example, like SquarePoint, Quantbox, Graviton, Bodai, and again Goldman Sachs. Yeah, so like you guys really have a good chance.
And so basically, two types of companies majorly come. One is HFT and some MFTs as well come. HFT is high frequency trading and MFT is medium frequency trading. And most of the companies which are Indian quants are more towards algorithmic trading, while companies like DaVinci are more of click trading.
So these companies like they have certain kind of filters. The most common of them is a CPI. Like some people say that 9+ is a strict criteria for bagging a quant offer, but that's not really a thing. Like if you have a very high CPI, that definitely helps. But even if you have CPI of like 8.5 plus, you still have a very, very good chance. So CPI is not a very big bar for it. What this company also look for is like a previous experience. So if you have like interned at a quant firm, that definitely helps. But like again, like that's not a very strong criteria. I have seen people like who didn't have any previous quant experience, they still got a very good offer. And courses also like there's like they like certain courses, for example, intro to ML, randomized algorithms, stochastic calculus. So like these courses, like they help in building your concepts for the for the interviews, and like these concepts are helpful while you work at these firms as well. But like again, like they don't care much. Like what matters is like what you do in the interview mostly, right? Yeah. So for projects
Yes,
also, yeah, yeah,
yes,
yeah,
continue, continue.
yeah. Okay. Like for even for projects, if you have done projects in like machine learning, that's definitely a plus. Like some companies, like they prefer uh, ML experience, so that's a good plus if you have done in that. And yeah, like CP rating, like that's a very very huge bonus. Like some firms I remember, they like float Google Forms and they just ask you for your core courses handle and CP rating. So like if you have a rating of 2000 plus, you will definitely get some interview. So yeah, these companies look out for CP ratings as well. Pradul, like you can take
Yes,
on from here.
yes, and so projects for basically projects and systems can really help you grab opportunities for the interview if you have done projects in like OS and stuff. And in general, other projects might not be as big as a point for these companies. They majorly look at the brand's CPI and previous work experience, and of course, CP rating is a very big bonus. And as Swastik said, CPI, I think above 8.5 is more or less usually seen as good for most of the companies that come for hiring points. And after the resume shortlisting comes the test. The tests usually happen one for quant role and one for the systems role. Quant role generally contains three, four puzzles or and some kind of mathematical questions on discrete math and probability. And the systems test usually have some CP questions as well as some questions on the theoretical aspects of CS, such as some questions on OS and networks. And then the interviews are there are three, four rounds, and they have varying levels of difficulties. Like the interview for quant roles usually include they start with asking some puzzles and math-based questions, and they also include some questions on DSA and CP. And some companies actually even ask some questions on finance, though they don't really expect you to know a lot about finance, but generally having a generally having a basic idea of how the market works is seen as good. If you guys would like to add anything.
Chitran, you can add something.
Yeah, so basically, regarding the finance thing, most of them do not expect to, but basically, like from the resume itself, like you can consider the resume based questions and the finance based questions as interrelated. Like if you have done a quant intern, then your project must be on some of the finance related topics. So the questions are mostly from this.
Your voice is lagging, Chitran.
Like they do not expect you to know certain terms or these things.
Yeah. Yes.
Is it Yeah, so I was just saying like the quant related questions or the finance related questions. You do not need to like specifically prepare or memorize some terms or some market conditions like that. Um, Basically, if you have done a quant intern already, then your resume, like the internship project, must be related to that only. So those questions are covered in mostly that section. Like I personally don't have any experience where they have asked me like specifically finance related questions or something like that. And for the systems, like the interviews, DSA and basically most of the companies do not ask DSA much. It is CS fundamentals and core C++. But yeah, like some of them maybe like in one round or two rounds, they may ask a moderate question based on DSA or like the DSA might be based on what they do. Like suppose they are maintaining an order book or so, so they can ask you to have a implementation of order book or like what data structures will you use, what algorithms will you use to implement this. Yeah, so in the interviews the DSA questions are not typical CP type. Like very rarely I have seen they ask this type of DSA questions.
Yeah, also like there are companies like Da Vinci, like they have a different type of interview process. They they want you to what they do is like they do certain kind of market making. So like what they do is they will give you maybe some problem, and like you'll have to estimate the like expected value, and quote your bid and ask spread, like those sort of like I don't have much experience, but like certain companies might have a
Yeah,
different interview process.
Yes. So
Yeah,
yeah. So
I'll
if I
just
can
share
add
some
to
insight.
like Da Vinci thing, so there is a
Yes.
test. Like the test is a sort of different from other HFTs. It is basically like where the speed matter. They ask MCQs where like you have to focus more on speed and like which questions you need to skip and which questions you need to attempt. So these are the things that matter in that test. And like after the test, they conduct GDs where they divide you into group of like 6 or 7, and they like ask you to play a game. Like as Swastik said, the bid ask game and that thing. So in that case, like you are not expected to accurately calculate the expectation. They expect you to how accurately and how quickly you can approximate some values and just play those games. Yeah.
the companies like Quant, like they have some in-house questions. Like those questions are like very new. You won't find them anywhere. So you need to have really good grasp of probability and like that stuff to be able to crack it. So you need to prepare on that part.
Yes. Almost every company has slightly different process and different types of questions they ask. Have a similar patterns, but so as Swastik and Chetan had mentioned, foreign HFTs like Da Vinci have a very different process.
Yeah. So like you can share our more time stories. Let's start with me. So like for my preparations, I started it on the start of August. So like for 2 months, August and September, I spent most of my time just doing questions on code forces and quant guide and puzzle quant. Yeah, so like and I feel like that really helped me in that test. Like I remember in my quantbox interview, like it lasted for continuous 4 hours. Like the quantbox conducts interview before day one. Like the interview start in November itself. So yeah, so in that interview, like they asked me a lot of questions. Like they were like really hard. They were really conceptual. So all those efforts that I put while solving questions on like quant guide, code forces. So it really helped me. Also, like sorry, I also interviewed at the other firms like Quadai and yeah, like at Square Point. So I find that like if you have solved those questions like on Brainsteller, Zinfeng Zhao, so like they won't ask you the exact same question, but if you have solved those before, that really helps you in the interview. And like also during the interview, you can ask the interviewer for any hint. So yeah, so that's a very good experience while interviewing. You're solving questions. So yeah, that was my part.
Yes. So I would also share my experience. So um, some of the companies that I interviewed for, let's say for Graviton, what happened was that there were 3, 4 rounds on puzzles and discrete math, and the last round was actually on finance in market making. So having some sort of exposure to markets really helped me. And of course, as many people keep asking me, you will not find these puzzles like on some sites. They might be there in some book, but the resources are so huge that you can't really expect to know some question that they are going to ask. But yes, as Swastik had earlier mentioned, doing these kinds of resources like brain scaler and stuff helps develop your brain. And the questions that they ask in somewhat sense are derivatives of those questions only.
Yeah, so for my case also, like I also started like a casual preparation around August, but yeah, from September onwards, like the preparation was on like full song. Uh, I basically focused on the systems sides on preparation. So for quant, I just did some basic resources like British Talent and Puzzle Quant. But for the system side, like I went through the course materials, like the CSE course materials, operating systems, networks, etc. Studied like C++ quite deeply through the books, online resources, tutorials, etc. And yeah, and for the DSA thing, like I did lead code hard questions, some code process questions. Like it was a sort of uh, regular practice to do some CP or DSA questions. Like if you are doing 15, 20 questions per week also, then yeah, I followed that. Because once the test starts around October, then you hardly get any time to focus on DSA questions or so because
Let's move to the next.
Jitwan, your mic is muted, I guess. Yeah, so Devansh, you can also add your experience like in software
Yeah.
systems.
So I didn't prepare for quant to be honest, and I mainly prepared for SD and systems role in HFTs. So for system roles, I can say a few things. Like CSC core fundamentals are very important for that, like operating systems and networks and what you can say. And yeah, and C++, like core C++, there's a lot of materials on the internet, so you can go through that. So that was very helpful for me. And and yeah, and DSC is a must too. So I started preparing around like August. I expected to get a PPO, but after at the end of August, I didn't get a PPO. So I started preparing wholeheartedly, and then yeah, and then I started lead code grinding, and like just like everyone else, like lead code hard questions you should do, and yeah, C++ revision and core computer science concepts, and after that, OS begin in maybe September or October. Yeah, and that's it.
Anything else?
And we'll talk about the resources in the following slides, I think.
So yeah, for your resume, so like there aren't any special guidelines for this, like those general guidelines related to like spacing and all that you have to follow, like for every company. And for like for quant roles specifically, like they appreciate if you have like a really good CP profile. So like don't forget to like mention to add a separate CP section if you have done much enough. Also, like they prefer Olympiad, like mathematics Olympiad, physics Olympiad, all that stuff. And for the project also, like it doesn't make sense to like just uh, fill your resume with a lot of projects which doesn't relate much. Keep your resume light and crisp. That will be fine. These companies mostly look for your CPI and your CP ratings and your test performance for the shortlisting. So yeah, also like on the POR stuff, like it's good if you have it, but they don't really care. So as I've written, like you can literally omit it completely. Like even I did it, I didn't have any PR section. So for quant firms, it's fine, and yeah, others can add.
Yes, completely agree. These companies don't exactly focus on other things like yours. Obviously, some course projects might be very relevant for the system side, and even some ML-based projects might be relevant for the quant role. But in general, more focuses towards what your CPI and CP ratings have been, and even your past work experience. like your internal stuff.
So even you have to add something. Your mic is muted, I guess. I can't hear you. Uh,
I don't think which one is audible. Okay, let's continue.
yeah, they want like from your side, like for software and systems, for companies.
Yeah, for software, I would say that please focus on your intern experience. Let's please prepare a script, like whatever you want to tell about your intern experience. This is very important. And yeah, and you should have something quantitative, like like you in your past intern experience, you managed to speed it up by 10% or 30% or anything like that. So that would be better to tell to the interviewer. In HR round, it's very good. And PORs are not that important for SDs too. I think so. And other than that, yeah, CP ratings they can ask, but I don't think CP ratings are that important in SD roles, like in normal companies like Databricks, Google, or Microsoft. But yeah, they help a lot. Yeah, CP rating if it's good like 1800 or 1900, then yeah, then it's very good. And yeah.
That's what you want to add.
Yeah, I think most of the points are covered uh, regarding the resumes.
We can answer the questions in the chats at the end.
So like
Yeah,
for
feel
resource,
free to ask questions on the chat.
so now let's come to the resources, the most important part. So for control, like the standard resources like brain stellars, influenza, 50 CP, you have to do that. Apart from that, as I mentioned, like quant, for certain companies, like they ask you really tough questions. So like practicing on quant side really helps. Apart from that, puzzle quant has all the questions from these Brainstormer and 50 CP. Also, there are certain books like Hard on Street, yeah, and like there's one thing called HFMT papers. HFMT is like Harvard MIT mathematics tournament. So like the questions there they really help you build concepts for the puzzles that these companies ask. So you can look on them as well. And yeah, for courses it's good if you have done courses like CS 203 or MS 201, like which covers probability and stuff. And some courses like randomized algorithms might help. Like that's not a necessary. I did randomize, so like that helped me improve my probability concepts. Yeah, for even for SD and quant both, like practicing on code forces and similar websites, they help you in your DSA concepts. Like in both the profiles, you will need DSA. Like even quant firms, they ask you DSA. Yeah, on and yeah, yeah, Devansh can
Yeah,
tell me about SDN
for
systems.
Yeah, there are resources mentioned on the HD slides too, so I can mention at that time. Yeah.
Yes. Just one advice from my side would be to try and cover the generic stuff first, like Brainsteller and Zinfandel, and then try focusing on some particular book or website like Conga. Don't try to complete or practice everything because these resources are way too vast to complete everything. Try to focus on understanding whatever you are doing and grasp the concepts because it is not about finding the same questions as the interviewer is going to ask you, but more about understanding the concept.
yeah, so for system side, like as it is written, learn CPP, GFC pages, and the book is also written. So first, try to like uh, complete the basics by going over the Learn CPP and GFT tutorial pages. You can follow any one of them. Like um, uh, I would say Learn CPP is a bit more organized. So if you want to go from starting to the end, Learn CPP should be good. And after that, you should follow. If you have time and you have a good command over the basics, then you can try to read the book, like the part of book, because the book is a vast resource. And if you start going through it from the beginning, then it will not help. So it will only help if you have mastered the basics. Then only go through the book, and then only also like only a relevant portions of the book, not the whole book, because as I have already mentioned, it is a vast resources. And also the coursework is mentioned: CS330, OS 425 networks. These are like very much like sufficient resources for systems preparation. CS610 is programming for performance. Uh, so about this, like there are some topics in this course which are like one of the most common questions in systems interviews. So if you have not even taken the course, I would suggest like at the end or when the interviews are closed, you should go through those slides. Like the slides are publicly available for this course on the web page. So some topics like false sharing and caches. So they are like the one of the most common questions in system interviews. So you can try to go through over these if you have not taken the course.
Yeah, same as Chitwan, but yeah, you can also, yeah, false sharing is very much asked in like system interviews, and there's a YouTube channel, CHERNO Cherno. There's a good C plus playlist. You can cover it in like 3 4 days. I recommend it so much for if you are preparing for system interviews. Like I will add it to the slides.
So should we move ahead? So yeah, the interview process.
Yeah,
You
so
guys can share
maybe I
your
will.
interview experience.
Yeah, so maybe I will start with this. So Janskar is where I got the on-campus offer from. So like its interview process was 2 rounds of interviews. There was first test. The test was a pen paper test, and I think it was a quite bit quite hard test. But yeah, the shortlistings were done, and there were 2 rounds of interviews. So interviews were pretty easy, I would say. The first round was just a resume based round, and there were questions on my internship project. And then the second round was just immediately held after, and it consisted of like simple mathematical questions, like easy questions based on P-general principle, expectation values, etc. So that is from Janskar research. Now, Graviton research is I got off-campus offer from where later around April. So I went through the systems interviews. So there were 3 rounds of interviews, 2 rounds on systems, and 1 round on DSA. So the second round was on DSA. It was, I think, a moderate round. There were 2 questions. They asked me first to write the pseudocode and then write the complete C++ code for those 2 questions. The first and third round were systems round. First round was, I think, a pretty tough round, I would say. It was like taken by some team lead. And so it consisted like it was sort of a marathon round where he was just asking questions after questions from my answers. So it consisted of C++, C, uh, OS, Linux, networks, everything like whatever we have mentioned it on the previous slides, everything was almost covered. The third round was also systems based round. They asked me to implement some memory allocator things and yeah, pretty decent enough questions based on systems, shared libraries, etc. Uh, NK Securities systems role. Uh, this was also a off-campus process. So there were like 2 rounds, 2 online rounds based on systems. So the first was on OS C++ general conceptual questions. Then the second round was some conceptual operating system questions, followed by implementation based questions on some order book and parser. The, yeah, so the third round, I would say it is not relevant for on-campus process. It was a on-site round where they gave me an assignment, proper assignment, around 4 5 hours to implement a parser for market data. QuantBox systems and Quant, like they were on-campus processes where like the interviews were conducted in November. Mostly 3 or 4 rounds were conducted in November. So systems role, I think QuantBox asked the toughest questions on systems. They asked like modern C++, smart pointers, etc., etc. Like whatever uh, new concepts are there in C++. And also the systems question even consists of Linux kernel based, like somewhat deeper knowledge of the Linux kernel and its implementation. Some rounds also involved questions on concurrent data structures. So concurrent data structures is topic covered in CS610. But yeah, there are online resources also as well for this. So like you have to implement a thread lock fingerings, etc. So yeah, and
I
control
think your voice is lagging.
like they were quite tough probability based puzzle questions, I would say. Side by. Hello. Yes, CX610. I was saying like QuantBox asked questions based on concurrent data structures. So in some of the rounds, so concurrent data structures is covered in CS610, but yeah, you can either go through the slides of that or you can go through some online resources. There are pretty much resources available for concurrent data structures. Yeah, I have not seen any other company asking concurrent data structure based questions. Only QuantBox ask these type of questions.
Yeah, so for like Stevens for Square Point, they mostly asked me puzzles and stuff. But like I remember, like in my round one, they asked me certain stuff like shared pointer and all that. Like they don't usually ask those in quant interviews, but like it's good to have some knowledge regarding OS and C++ stuff if you have. And they might ask you on the finance front as well, like if you have done a quant intern, so they might ask they might they might dig deep into the particular financial aspect you covered during your intern, but that is again optional, like that's not compulsory.
And adding for the Square Point C++ developer role, they basically ask some basic questions, but they aren't very tough. They are more on implementation of oops and stuff. So you should, and they ask a lot of questions about C++. So you should have a good hand on that. Would recommend going through the Learn CPP website. And other than that, they also focus on core CS concepts like OS and networks in particular. And adding towards the balance sheet process, as Sripan had earlier mentioned, after their online tests, which basically see mental maths and probabilities, they have online GDs where the key is to be aware of approximating the distributions to some kind of distribution that can be easily calculated, like approximating distributions to normal form and knowing about the probability of various strips that usually helps a lot in calculating and approximating as fast as possible. And you should also be aware about the basics of the markets, the and even the option markets of calls and puts, because as the rounds go further, they ask markets based on calls and puts as well. So would recommend going through the basics and understanding how the market moves, because you have to react according to market information as well in during their GGs.
And yeah, for Databricks, I would like to share that Database came only, I guess, 15 days before day one, and then they did some resume shortlisting. Like it was very, I don't know what basis it was, but yeah, mostly CPI, uh, core branch, and intern experience based resume shortlisting. And then 2 3 days before day one, they conducted interviews online. Yeah, so the interviews were mainly in 3 steps, 3 rounds. 2 rounds were of DSA and one was HR round. So in each DSA round, there was a graph or DP question, like a basic one, like lead code medium, and then it was so after, and there was another follow-up question which was around LC hard. So I guess this was it. The interview was okay, it's not that tough, but yeah, the resume shortlisting, I don't know what the criteria was, but yeah, like I guess it was what I mentioned earlier. And for other companies, I would say, yeah, the I guess lead code hard will be sufficient for SDs. Like you just complete all the lead code hard questions that are there on the website and interview bit too. That would be sufficient for most of the SDs. And for some SDs, you will require competitive programming. I div 2D up to.
You can move further.
Yeah, you guys can put your questions in the chat and answer them.
Projects, as answering projects can be important. For example, especially in systems role, you should have projects on OS and stuff, course projects on networks OS and whatever is covered in those courses. And generally, some companies also would like some kind of ML experience and ML based projects for the control. And many companies actually start their interview process just after taking the test. For example, companies like SquarePoint actually start very early in their interview process. And most of the quant companies in specific have conducted a lot of rounds of interviews way before day one.
Like for shortlisting, like these companies like mostly look for OA, but like sometimes like I remember for Quant Fox, like my test like it was very average from my side, but still I got shortlisted. So yeah, like things are a bit random, you can't say, but yeah, doing good in OA kind of really kind of guarantees you in shortlist, but sometimes like they can they might not still shortlist you if you have done really well in the OS. Like things are very random.
I
If
think we've
any
answered the
question is missed,
questions.
you can ask them again. Like if we missed any of the questions asked.
For core C++, as I already mentioned, first go through the basics from online resources like Learn CPP, GSG, or video tutorials on YouTube, and then go through the book, because the books are very much detailed and complicated to read also. So if you have not mastered the basics, if you are not comfortable, then it might not help. It will like impact in a negative manner if you start going through the book from
Okay.
beginning.
Like for that DQ, I think that DQ is like test code account analyst, so that exists only for SquarePoint. So like in that role, like the people work under a quant researcher for like two and a half years, and like if they have done really well, they get promoted to the quant research role. Like in Indian form, what happens is from the day one you get involved into the quant research stuff. In SquarePoint, you don't do like at least for a year or two. Like that's a difference between Indian firms and the foreign firms, especially SquarePoint. So initially, you have to do some development stuff. You like if I talk about myself, so I'm currently like involved in like developing a scripts for the back testing and like building the framework. So yeah, so for everyone at SquarePoint who is a DQA, for a year they will be indulged in this only, and then later on they might be given research projects. So that's a difference between DQA and like other QRs at the other firms.
And the difference between a QR and a trader is that the QR is majorly responsible for developing signals and alphas, like when is the market going to move, which direction, by how much, while the trader uses the signals to place bids and asks on the market. The OAs, like for Square Point, generally they ask some DSA and CP questions for the for the both the quant as well as C++ developer role. Whereas for the infra role, they ask more towards the core CS, asking questions about system and stuff. System and stuff.
For T++ rounds, mostly they ask conceptual questions, like uh, they mostly focus on the why and how of the things, rather than the what part. Like they will not ask any syntax related questions or some, like they ask you to complete a syntax based code for modern C++. They will not ask these things. They will ask about the concepts, and they will ask you to implement those things. Like how will you implement? If you were to implement, then how will you implement? Suppose you have to implement references in C++, then what kind of pointers will you use? How will you like implement that? So like, or if it's smart pointers or unique pointers, you were to implement unique pointers, then how will you implement that? These kind of questions are asked mostly. Virtual functions also, like the virtual functions, you know about virtual functions, so they will ask like how can you implement this, even if you don't know how are they actually implemented in C++, how will you implement this, or what are the advantages, disadvantages of certain things. These type of questions are asked for C++.
I think the one you can
Uh,
start with your session.
For systems rounds, I would say that yeah, like fundamental CS concepts are enough. Like whatever is there in the OS courses and network courses. Along with that, uh, yeah, like Chitwan already told C plus knowledge about. Other than that, I don't think anything else I would like to add.
So in the interview, like they will ask you to implement memory allocator based on like malloc and free. Like how will you implement that memory pool based on memory pool based or yeah, in general, like what is the use of virtual memory? Why is virtual memory useful? How do you reduce false sharing? What is false sharing? These kind of general conceptual questions are asked. They may ask if the interviewer is like really hard, then he may ask like sort of numerical based questions based on page table or page table entries. Yeah, I think these kind of things are there only, nothing else. No, they will not ask
Yeah,
about the
competitive.
implement using.
Okay.
Yeah. So Harshit, I was just answering your question. They will not ask you to write like a core code or a proper syntax-based code. They will just uh, ask you to write pseudo code or like that, like the code which uh, clearly tells what are the things you are going to use, what are the structures you are going to use, and what are the functions you're going to implement.
Yeah, one of their favorite question is like, what is virtual table? How do we call virtual functions? Like, do this at must.
Yeah, I think all of the companies ask this question.
With it depends on what exactly are you targeting. If you target systems role, then definitely you will have to learn about course here. And generally, concepts about is relevant for most of the SD companies as well.
Yeah, Vinay, I guess you have to run the code with some test cases. It depends on the interview, but yeah, you should get prepared for that. It always helps.
Like sometimes in the interview, they might give you a live hacker rank link, and you have to code in front of the interviewer and like run the code on the some test cases that the interviewer might give, and you'd also have to like explain your code. So that happens.
ML is not at all important for systems role. And yeah, core CS will be sufficient.
From Ashish, I would recommend doing Quant Guide and the flight third on the street.
Like you don't need to like look at any question bank. Like if you prepare well from the quant guide and like the resources that we shared, uh, those will really help you solving. And also like in the interview, you can ask for the hints. They will share with you. Yes.
Like For SD, OS and networks are not that important. You should first focus on DSA, like DSA with graphs and DP as the priority. And after that, if you get time, you can move to OS and networks. Yeah, DBMS, if you get time, you can do it, but it's not that important.
Yeah, some of the software companies are about DBMS. Yeah. Computer usually not asked in interviews. Yeah,
Yeah, so this work-life balance thing, like it depends like in every firm. Like at Square Point, like I work around 9 to 10 hours every
like but
day. It can,
uh,
uh, yeah, so like these working conditions, like they vary between firms. Within a firm, the conditions can vary between teams. Like in some teams, it could be good, in some teams, it could be toxic. Like we can't have a definite answer for this.
Yes, but generally you can expect 9, 10 hours actually.
Yeah, 19 hours is standard.
Mohit, you can add your you add your internship, but it will not be a plus point or a minus point for the person shortlisting your resume. But it is generally a good idea to add any kind of internship that you have done during your intern season. So actually, no, it is not mandatory. I myself didn't have a content run, but in general, while shortlisting, they tend to see what intern that you have done, and if it is a content run, it is usually a plus point.
Yeah, Abhishek, I had so you will get to fill a form preference order before placement, I guess a few days before placements, and then you have to give a preference like which location do you want to have. So I preferred Berlin over Bangalore, and that's why they gave me.
Things which is it from the quant side and the system side of the presentation. Devansh, do you have anything else for the software side?
Sorry, I was busy. Can you repeat?
I guess this is from the quant and system side. Do you have anything else for the software side you would like to present?
Yeah, for software side, like yeah, you can just go through the slides which
Okay,
are there. I can just go through them quickly. I can just yeah.
like, these are our contact numbers. You can
Mhm.
contact anytime.
Yeah. And yeah, like just quickly skim through them, the slides. Mm, I guess it's all covered already. Next. Yeah, for software engineers, like the interview process is very different from what you do actually at the work. So there is no correlation. But all the companies follow this. They ask DSA, and you rarely get to apply DSA at the job. Yeah, so nowadays you just use Cursor, GitHub Copilot. Yeah, almost all the software companies have a subscription of Cursor or anything similar for LLMs and all. Yeah, so next slide. Yeah, this is okay. You can skip it. Yeah, so mostly software companies are like Databricks, Stripe. Stripe is a new company. Like you can also focus on Stripe also, and Google, Microsoft are there only. And yeah, and other than Walmart, Deutsche Bank. Deutsche Bank hired a lot of people last year, and Goldman Sachs. You can focus. Yeah, next slide. So yeah, just code as much as possible. Like there's no other advice. Just try to practice as much as possible by writing the code yourself. Don't use, don't take help of any LLM to write the code. Just write it yourself. Next. Uh, yeah, these are already covered. We can skip through this. Yeah, lead code is very important for S3 role. Like just do all the lead code hard questions. It is a must. And yeah, um, I want to ask you the programming club archive test is started for you guys, like Y22 batch. Like if anyone would like to say, like Kovi, programming club archive. It's not yet. Okay, so I will talk with my coordinators. Okay, okay. And you should ask seniors, like whichever company you're targeting. Say if you want to ask me about Databricks or any other senior, you can just approach them via WhatsApp. Like I guess you have contact numbers of all the seniors. I guess you can just approach them simply to ask about anything. Next. Yeah, these are the sources that were just mentioned before too. So interview bit and lead code are must. And yeah. And if anyone has not done ESO 207, that they can just they can just ask slides for any other CSE department guy. And CS 3452 are optional, but you can cover graphs and DP from CS 345. It's very helpful. Next. Yeah, resume. Yeah, I think this is already been done, covered. Next. Yeah, so for placements, like you guys are around like August. Is there like is the resume deadline over or is it still going on? Mhm. I think it's still going on. So yeah, just focus on making a resume and try to write things which are actually true. Like don't fake things. And yeah, just try to speak them, like try to word them as nicely as possible so that you can just what I mean is say in an interview effectively. You don't need to say uh, mug up or anything at all. And after that, September's PPTs and OS will start, and October and November is the toughest time in the placement. You will be you will go through a lot of stress. Just be prepared for that. Like, everyone goes through a lot of stress in this period, October and
Stress
November.
eating.
या नवंबर में एंड भी होते हैं तो लाइक डबल स्ट्रेस है या एंड दिसंबर में तो है ही तो नेक्स्ट so I already talked about my interview experience, so if anyone would like to ask, and yeah, the HR round was focused mainly on my internship experience. My intern was at Quant. Yeah, so any other questions?
I think no more questions. We can wrap this.
Like Databricks might look for CPI greater than 8.5. And yeah, of course, circuitral branches too. Like you can do, like they are not that difficult once you get a hang of lead code questions. Like you can easily complete all the lead code hard questions. Like they are not easy, but they are not that difficult too. Like you should
And
complete.
you don't need to complete all of them. Once you get a good handle, then that's fine. I think.
Yeah, just get a good idea. Like just you can just go through the solutions of many questions if you don't
Most
get
important
time.
thing is to getting the exposure, and that is why I suggest you to go through code forces, because the questions in code forces, they are usually very different. Like every question has a different essence. So the most important is to get the exposure. You should not spend too much time on a single question. Like for every question, you can maybe try for like 1 hour, and then you can look for its solution. For solution, you can refer to YouTube, or you can just read the text solution. So yeah, the gaining the exposure is very important for DSA.
Hello. Yeah. Thank you so much, Mridul, Devansh, Swastik, and Chitwan for taking the time to share your experiences and guidance with us. With that, let's conclude today's session. Wishing the Y22 batch all the very best for the upcoming placement session. And also, there's another session for finance and data analytics profile at 6 p.m. So, all those who are interested may join that. Thank you.
Okay, guys, all the best.
The best, the resources and the PPTs will be shared, I think.
You can contact us on WhatsApp if you want. Like, we have shared our numbers. Contact us.
Yes, but
Bye.
it's on the slide. I just